Good morning, everyone. Hi, and welcome to another day of this awesome 3-day road show we've got going, which is this 1138 50th anniversary of Lucasfilm celebration. Today we got some amazing droid builders with us, which we'd like to go around and maybe go around of introductions. Let's start with Sam. Sam, we'd love to learn more about you.
Sure. Okay, so I'm a UK droid builder, also part of the fund TX78666, and I'm a droid builder for the most part, and then occasionally I go out and stormtroop as well, which is nice. And they've been on this crazy journey, which has kind of taken me all over the place and far exceeded my expectations on just building something for the corner of the bedroom. This is, as you can see in this room, it's been insane. And, with the other guys as part of the UK builders, I've been into some incredible things such as a film and also the red carpet events and all this other kind of crazy stuff. So it's a great opportunity for anybody who really wants to get involved with something like this and learn a new skill. It's almost like learning a new trade, especially when you're putting these things together. And then, of course, with the moving forward with 3D printing, that's really become quite a large part of my life now. And to say the least, let's put it that way.
Yeah, I'll go back to this maybe later, but I remember seeing or reading an interview with you about like maybe aquariums were your thing before droids, and now this thing has exploded and taken over your life. I'd love to learn more about that later. Sure. But let's learn more about the other folks. Brian, where are you hailing from and what you got over there?
Sure. So I'm Brian Anderson. I am in New England, Massachusetts. I've been with the 501st for 18 years. Droid building is actually relatively new to me, to the point where the two astromechs you see behind you were both built over COVID quarantine and have never left my house. So I got started with BB units in 2016, right as the first of the sequel trilogy was coming out, and it's been nonstop. I've done K2SO, IG-11, Pit Droid, Astromechs, 2 BBs. I've got a third BB on the way. Sound like I'm an expecting parent. I've got a third BB on the way. But yeah, I have dug in very deep with it. So I'm really excited to be here today.
That's awesome. Michael, would you like to continue and share a little bit of your awesome journey and also the stuff that you provided to all of us, all through your Facebook group and your Patreon?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so Michael Baddeley from the UK started building, probably about 5-6 years ago, maybe 7 years ago. Actually started with 3D printing design, and that's probably what I'm known in the community for, is for designing things. The very first thing that I ever designed was actually R2D2's dome. I thought, how hard can it be to cut a ball in half and put some details on top of it? Threw it onto Thingiverse, and then discovered with a bunch of people who were absolutely passionate about creating these things through the R2D2 Builders Club. And since then, been challenged to then create a fully 3D printed R2D2, which we did. And then after that, the rest is history, as they say. That, as most droid builders, I think we are rapidly running out of room in my house. Unfortunately, I have to prototype every print before I share the prints and all that kind of stuff. So consequently, we built a shed, we filled the shed, and now we're starting to put things back into the house again, which makes me popular. But it's been an amazing journey. And also, I think not just the 3D printing, but creating the community, the Facebook community. COVID's been an incredibly difficult time for many people, and we've, every 2 weeks we've been grabbing sessions online and just having fun and getting people through this time with a little bit of a laugh. So it's been fantastic, and I think it's the start of things to come, really.
It's definitely, not to step in as we're doing intros, but that really resonates with me. I think this time of COVID, much like Brian was saying earlier, has been rough for people. And I think when you have something to do in a community to be part of, it felt a little easier. And so thank you for the stuff that you've done. David, you have stuff to share?
Yes, my name is David Castellano. I hail from Pennsylvania over here in the US. I started out my journey with the 501st in 2011. and got into droid building in 2013. So relatively newer. Just started out with astromechs, building them. Now I have 3 astromechs in my house. Progressed to the 3D printing world, doing IG-11, BB, 21B battle, medical droid, battle droid. Now working on K2, L3, and a 3D printed C-3PO.
Wow. An L3 as well. Wow, that's crazy. That's a
planet
lot.
by the looks of it, David, by your background.
What's
Good
that?
work. And
Thank
the whole
you.
planet by the looks of it going by your background.
I know it's all nice and quiet up
Crazy.
here, you know.
Right? Yeah. There's a lot of droids over there. Lee, please close us off on our intros with a little bit of more information about you. And everybody knows about Lee, but any more information you could share about your journey?
Certainly. Well, yeah, I've been a builder since 2007. Not working quite as quick as Brian. This has taken me about 14 years, these 4 droids behind me. So not as quick as you, Brian. I'm amazed by the speed you've built them. Good work. And thankfully, from an R2 builder, I've gone on to work for Lucasfilm since 2013. I worked for the Creatures department as a model maker. Started off making R2-D2 with Oliver Steeples. And it's gone on from there. I've been there ever since, working at Palmer Studios in all the recent Star Wars films.
That's awesome. I'll do a quick intro, and then maybe I'll go real quick talk about first, and then let's keep this panel really open and chill, and just like maybe it's a back and forth. It's what it should be. So my name is Dino Ignacio. I'm the Legion's diversity officer, but also a amateur droid builder. I've got one over here, which is all I got. Started this build 3 years ago. It's been a really fun journey. Again, to everyone's contributions in this group, I feel like I'm standing on the shoulders of giants in the fact that there's so much information out there that's been freely given, which has been amazing. And my growth as a person who builds has been because of all of you, and in connection to that, my daughter as well, who helped me make this build. This was a really fun bonding moment with me and my then 7-year-old, who is now 9. So thank you. And so, which is a great segue to the charity we're all trying to support today, which is FIRST. So just to remind everyone, FIRST is an amazing organization that's devoted a lot of effort in raising money for STEM. So getting young children to be educated in the sciences, and they've got a robotics program. So again, this is me encouraging people, if you enjoy this conversation we're having, or any other of the amazing things you've seen this week, do remember that none of the people behind the camera or in front of the camera have been paid. All this entertainment has been brought to you as a labor of love for the name of like the charity that we're supporting. So please consider donating. There's a button down below or a link up above, I think. In any ways, just find it, donate some money, and help us out. So on that, I'd love to keep this panel really open. It's not like I'm the host and everybody's like here to answer along or whatnot. But I do want to start it off. Like, what's exciting about robots and R2-D2 in particular to all of you, and why build? I guess.
Yeah, I'll grab that first of all. I think for me, as probably many similar with you guys, the magic of seeing these things in the movies when we were 8, 9, 10, 11, watching the first Star Wars, seeing, and at that time, I think because everything was physical, each prop, each character, each individual piece was so special and so memorable. And I made them out of cardboard and sellotape and all of the usual kind of stuff. So to hurtle back, I don't know, 30 years, 35 years later, and to be able to create something that's almost exactly what's in the movies is crazily exciting. And, the advent of technology, things like Arduinos, 3D printing, all of the new techniques that are available there just give us magical tools, to be able to print something and physically hold it the next day. I still can't get over that. So I'm just recreating the magic of my 8-year-old self, and still feel like that every morning when I jump up to look at these things.
I totally agree. I think just to plus one on that, how other fan communities have artifacts. Like, for example, if you're a fan of a TV show that is like has real people, those people are real and for the most part are attainable in terms of like getting an autograph and whatnot. But or if you're into sports, there's a jersey you can get, and now you've got an artifact from that world. But for the stuff that we love, a lot of it is like locked away in movie magic, and just having a physical version of it sometimes is all you need to feel like something tactile is so satisfying to hold when you've only seen it in the movies, and suddenly, to your point, Michael, you printed it and now it's in your hand. Oh, the joy of that. It's amazing.
Yeah, and for me, the rise of 3D printing and the accessibility of large prop building was really appealing. Like I'd said in my intro, I've been with the 501st since 2003. And so I've been trooping for a very long time. I'm not as young as I used to be, and my body doesn't love the Stormtrooper armor for 12 hours a day like it once did. So I started over the last few years getting really into set building and booth building for the Legions. And where I am here in New England, the 501st, the Rebel Legion, the Mandalorian Mercs, the Droid Builders, we all collaborate on our convention displays. And so as we started building like big set pieces, I started spending more time with the Droid Builders because they were sort of bringing, we built a Millennium Falcon chess booth, but then R2-D2 coming and hanging out in it sort of brings it to life. And then with the advent of these 3D printable droids that Michael has created, it's like, wait a minute, I have a printer. I could just make an R2. I don't even have to leave my house. Like,
yeah.
Amazon sends me filament and droids come out, and it's amazing.
It's
awesome.
Easy to sneak in a roll of filament and then another one.
Well, and that's part of what used to intimidate me. Like I'd go on the astromech boards and I'd see, this new aluminum droid frame has come out and it's going to be how much and take how long? Like, no, I don't think I can really commit to that. But when it's $20 here and there over a period of weeks or months, or, you're in lockdown and you get obsessive and you buy like pallets of filament and just print nonstop, like it's a lot more attainable.
It's like an Airfix, to be honest, where you get to choose how fast you decide to buy the parts and when they're accessible. And then, if you're anything like me, you put the part down, lose it, and then you have to print another one. But you can replace parts as well. But it is, we're in a magical time. The other big thing I think is watching the new generation, and we'll talk about first, and some of the new builders. We had some of the guys come on from the competition on one of our little Zoom chats that we had, and we were really proud of what we built. And then they showed us what they built.
Yeah,
and we went, "Oh, okay, then that's all right." Their skills, their knowledge, and that next generation that are coming through. I think we're just scratching the surface of what's there, and it's lovely to see. As you said, I get loads of pictures with people with families, kids, things that they're building. What I remember doing that with my parents, but making aeroplanes and whatnot, and it seems to be that same recreation of the family connection. So there's a big plus on that.
Yeah, and not to diminish what we do, but at the end of the day, we have remote control robots. These kids are making like actual machine learning, pathfinding, and like AI based robots. I can only imagine what will happen to this club and this field in the next few years as these kids grow up and join in.
Yeah, we've all seen Terminator. That ended well.
I think I know a lot of us here were builders when we were kids as well. The opportunity children have got now with the first is so good. If we had that opportunity when we were younger, how cool would it be? And what would we be building now? It's great that we're doing the R2s and so on, but it is, like you say, Michael, the information and what they're building is phenomenal compared to what us guys are doing, for sure.
Oh, completely. And I think you've done some work, haven't you, in schools, Sam, of just getting kids literally jumping on a Zoom session, I think, with children. Is that right?
Yeah, it was weird. I got a couple of people reached out to me on Instagram, and I was posting up pictures of things I'm doing and all that kind of stuff, and obviously YouTube and whatever else. And then oddly enough, I just got this message saying, "Oh, can you come on and talk about robots?" We were a UK school. Everyone's in lockdown. We're annoyed that we're in lockdown. The kids aren't paying attention to what we're saying. They want to get involved with this kind of stuff. I said, "Yeah, sure, okay." And then I did one, then that led on to another one, and then to another one, and it just kind of started, snowballing a little bit. And I was saying to the club, "Does someone else want to get involved with this? Because it can't just be me." And whatever else. And then, of course, now the schools have started to go back, and that's kind of dissipated a little bit more now. But, you know, it's from what you've been saying there, guys, you know, ultimately, I see this as a bit of a stepping stone. So what we're doing today, someone else will pick up on and go, well, we're going to try and do this. And then as things develop, polymers, you know, different types of filaments, different types of printing, different types of printers. And we've seen that with, you know, FDM and resin and all those other crazy things. And as you touched on before, when I first joined the astromech.net site, and I was thinking, okay, so I've got myself a B&Q, which is a hardware store in the UK, lampshade, and I've kind of mottled this thing together. I met with Oliver Steeples, and I was like, this guy was in the film. How mad is that? And there was this kind of community that was there, which was, you know, really lovely, and it still is really lovely. And then as soon as I think you kind of broke the mold a little bit, Mike, I've got to be honest, because all of a sudden Michael Baddeley's producing, because we met on Thingiverse, and that's kind of how that relationship kind of came to be. And I was like, I really want this part, and I really want this bit made. And Mike was able to kind of do that quickly, and he still is able to do it very quick. I'm sure you printed and made clones of yourself, Mike, because no one in the whole world is able to produce the kind of stuff that you do in such a fast, quick time and have a family. So, you know, something's going on there. And, you know, so long story short here is that, you know, we're going to see some amazing things happening, I think, over the next couple of years. And going back to it when it took, you know, we used to take, it's a niche thing, you know, it might take 10 years to build an R2. Now with the kind of stuff that we've got going on and the community that's so much larger than it was before, yeah, you can do these things in several months, depending on how many printers you've got, of course.
Yeah, like my green and white droid was, I think, maybe 5 months start to finish with all electronics and everything.
Amazing.
And he's the more active of my two astromechs. The R5, he just sort of turns his head and walks, nothing else moves. But the sprite droid, he has working arms and panels and lights and everything else. And it's just become so, I don't want to say easy, like I don't want to understate it, but compared to where it was 10 years ago, it's amazing how little it really takes to get into it.
The other side of it as well is the education and learning. I don't think you can underestimate how much you have to learn when you do these things. But none of it feels like learning. So you go into this process, and at the end of it, if you look back, you can now program Arduinos, you can paint, you can weather, you can fill, you can sand, you can 3D print. You know, there's just an incredible bunch of skills that you learn almost just by having fun. And I think that's the pleasure of it. And also for that next generation builders, you know, it's not just about robotics. It's also you've got the creativity side of it, the painting, the colouring, the weathering. It's amazing, a hobby.
Yeah, David, I want to learn more about your builds. Like, what is the most amazing or most fun skill that you learned through the process of all the builds you've done so far?
For me, it's been learning I've learned a whole lot of skills, from painting to electronics. All those sorts of skills, and even to that point, jumping into 3D printing as well. My three astromechs now are, I'll say, old school. They're wood, styrene, aluminum. I'm actually now jumping into trying my hand at printing, at doing one of Michael's full printed droids too, just to have the experience and see how it is and how it compares. I've been actually fortunate to, one of my astromechs actually belongs to my daughter. She, you know, wanted to build one of her own, so she and I sat together. I let her. You know, I taught her everything I knew, putting this together, putting the arms in, how to sand, how to paint, how to do everything. And she actually now is actually using that. Hopefully, he's going to be using those skills in her robotics club at high school too. So,
awesome. That's exciting. To move the topic a little bit, I know for a fact Brian started off with non-R2D2 astromechs, and Sam, my bread, started with the black one. Michael, you started with R2, right? I believe.
Yep.
What is everyone's reasoning for starting where they did, and how did you say, well, I'm going to start with the specific one as opposed to R2D2?
I'll start on that one then. So I met with Oliver, and he had an R5 unit in his house in a box, which was just, the whole day was just completely bonkers to meet this guy for the very first time. I think I even text my girlfriend, now wife at the time, and said, if I don't come out in the next hour, if you don't hear from me, this is my last location. Because, you know, these guys, you know, you've got to remember, these guys are so open and honest. It's like, yeah, come over, come and have a look at what we're doing. And I've done the same thing. And people have turned up and gone, so what is it? And how does it work? And you kind of have that way about you. So this is going back to 2016 when I was in London at Celebration UK. And we got to where the droid bit was, and there was just a sea of R2D2s. And it was mad. It was just all R2D2s everywhere. There were one or two that weren't. And I kind of like the idea of having Dave talk over the top of me. Dave, are you going to mute?
Oh, once.
Yeah.
There we go. So I like the idea of having something that wasn't the norm. And I think in the UK, I'm still the only one with R2Q5, which is unfortunately almost an embarrassment in comparison to the stuff that I did afterwards. So, you know, and then of course, Lee reached out to everybody and said, hey, we need R2D2s for, you know, tier 2 events and Disney events and stuff. And then I built one of those, and I've built other things. And this is a fully 3D printed ALT droid, which, you know, Michael was kind of responsible for, and Lee was involved with the track system and stuff. So, you know, for me, it was not building an R2D2, but when you take it to a Comic-Con, that is the droid that everybody wants to see. So, you know, if you are after the attention and you want to make sure that, you know, all that painstaking building time that you've taken to make this thing, and nobody cares about it, R2D2 wins the hearts every single time. So it's an amazing experience to get that point as well.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
That's okay. For me, I had a similar mentality as Sam. When I started, I saw tons of R2D2s out there looking on astromech.net, and I said, while I plan on building an R2 at some point, I want something unique. So I picked a R5J2 from Return of the Jedi. The appeal to him was not only did he have a different dome, different look to him, but he had those really cool looking binocular eyes. So he was completely out, you know, different look to any of the R5 droids I had seen there. I just wanted someone that stood out from the rest.
Makes sense.
And my first build was R2D2, and that really was because it was so long ago now that Oliver's was the only other R2 I knew about in the UK. So, and like Sam's already alluded to, you know, that gets all the attention. So you put all that effort into a build, you want to get in a bit of attention to it. And it certainly does when you take it out at events. But now I've certainly changed because it's nice to see the different droids being made. My R2 has now changed to the black and white one that you can see at the back behind me. And I've made a second R2D2 now, which is the closest one to me. But we do use droids and hire them in. So I'm always looking for non-R2D2s. So I encourage people to go for different color schemes, whether they're replicating something or making up their own color scheme. You know, it's always exciting to see new builds and new color schemes for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like up here, we have a very thriving droid building community in the New England area. At a big convention, we might have 6 or 7 fully mobile R2D2s. So I felt like making an R2D2 would just be another one in that pile. And while it's great, you know, if you have that many of them, it's not that exciting. And then one of my favorite things about the Star Wars Galaxy's Edge extension of the Disney theme parks was that they themed it all the way down to having specific droids for the soda carts. So they designed the Sprite droid and the Coca-Cola droid and all these other things. And I thought it was great that they had astromechs pushing little hover carts selling bottles of space soda. So I decided that I would build the Coca-Cola R5 because he's very Star Warsy looking, but if you get it, you'd get a smile out of it. And then people started teasing me saying, oh, when are you going to build the Sprite and the Diet Coke droid? And lockdown, boredom, 3D printers, and next thing you know, I have the Sprite droid. Now I just have to figure out where I could fit Diet Coke.
Yeah.
There's a pattern here which always fascinates me. I always bang on about it, but as if building one droid isn't enough achievement, we go on and build more. You know, it's crazy, and the only thing that really does stop us if we run out of space. As you can see, you know, Sam's room's looking a bit cramped, and you know, we just carry on building it. It's bizarre. So we, you know, if we've got partners, very understanding ones at that.
But that's about accessibility, isn't it? You know, before, as I was saying before, you know, it might take you 10 years to get all the parts together to make this thing. 3D printing comes out, and then they're going, well, yeah, that could be metal eventually, or that can continue to be 3D printed because it looks like metal. And as I say, you know, Michael's, you know, 3D printing skills there have just turned the whole thing on its head, really. So, you know, I don't think it's unrealistic for you to go around to someone's house that might be into Star Wars that's probably 3D printed and R2D2 now. You know, it's not out of this world now. It's a very real thing that can happen.
Yeah,
that's out of pure goodness. That's why I've started doing smaller ones, because
yes,
the world needs smaller.
Thank you.
Right, thank you.
And of course, every time he does a small one, I immediately think, well, what if I printed that at 1/1 scale? he made a 3D model of the little soda carts from Galaxy's Edge that you can remote control and drive around. And I keep thinking, if we just scale that up a bit, and I hooked one of my astromechs to it.
Yeah, no, this leads me to like an interesting topic, which is that, I mean, a lot of people are intimidated by this whole process, right? So obviously, it takes a lot to start thinking, well, can I do this? These are skills I don't know about. I've been fortunate that I'm surrounded by a community here in the Pacific Northwest of amazing droid builders that have mentored me. Everything from Ian Martin and Todd Maxfield Matsumoto. I'm surrounded by amazing people that have just guided me through the process. Some people may or may not have that around them. What advice can you give to young, aspiring, or not so young, aspiring folks that want to get into this?
Yeah, I think my view on this is just do it, which is just get started, and particularly. And again, I mean, I guess most of the things that I built, or all the things that I built, are 3D printed. That's why I've done a number of the smaller ones, because there's a little baby astromechs which are kind of about so big, but they're effectively exactly the same mechanism as a full scale one. So you've got dome rotation, you've got the motors on the legs, and so what you can do is build one of these things literally over a weekend. And you've still got to sand it, you've still got to paint it, you've still got to finish it, you can weather it. There we go.
Here's one I produced earlier.
So these, and effectively they are mechanically exactly the same as a standard 3-legged R2D2. Great way of starting, and also something that you're not going to invest, 6, 9, 10 months. So it's just jumping in there and starting to play. That's how you learn, I think.
Comic cons are a good place to go as well. Now we're getting back to normal, hopefully. As if comic cons aren't cool enough, you see so much. Hopefully there'll be some droid builders there, and just get talking to them, because while you're doing a build, it's always good to physically see what you're working on, and if you've got any queries on how things go together. So it's good to get to know your local droid building community for sure. And there's so much information online as well. You've got astromech.net, you've got Facebook groups, and so on. You've got local groups as well around the world, European groups in UK and the US and Australia. So yeah, just spend time doing your research and find out what a friendly bunch we are. Everybody's happy to help. And just do your research and be comfortable with the materials you're using as well. 3D printing's a great way forward now. A lot of people are 3D printing, let's face it. But also you can make them out of wood, out of plastic, or you can buy the parts in aluminium. Quite an expensive route to take, but people do different part runs and so on. You can buy parts in as well. So whatever materials you're comfortable with, and you learn things along the way as well. It's very rare that you go into a build and you're going to know everything. A lot of people find that the electronics are quite daunting, but once you learn that, it's quite straight. You'll be surprised how straightforward it really is once you learn the electronics. And again, us builders are there to help you through the way with that as well.
Yeah, just to add on what Lee said, I've never met a builder who doesn't want to talk about his build, doesn't want to share, doesn't want to help. And I think, when I first started, it similar to Sam, it's quite intimidating. To Facebook, suddenly I'm friends with Lee Towersey and Oliver, and I kind of then look at them and think, oh my God, they were in the film. They won't want to talk to me because obviously these guys are in films. But wow, how amazing! And then suddenly, when you reach out, they're just passionate builders like the rest of us, and everybody I think who's in the club is in that same vein. the community and the sharing and the helping and the encouraging is absolutely amazing. And distance is no longer an issue. I know you said you're surrounded, Dino, but effectively in the virtual world now, anybody will jump on Zoom calls and whatnot, just help out and chat through and share.
Well, and that's one of the things about these biweekly droid chats that's been so great over the last year is, the way that Michael's been organizing it. You may get 100 people on one of these Zoom chats, but they go into little breakout rooms that feel just like what we're doing right now. And so you can have sort of a simple, straightforward conversation between a handful of builders. And really, rather than it being a Facebook group where you're just sort of posting out and hoping for the best, you're kind of face to face with a handful of people and just kind of chatting with them and sharing. And I know, like, back when we had conventions, and I'm sure we'll be doing this again, like, we always did panels at the cons where we'd have droid workshops and prop building and costuming and everything, because we wanted to kind of get those people. And one of my favorite experiences was, one year, we have an annual convention. One year I did a panel. The next year, someone comes up to me and goes, it's your fault. It's like, what? He's like, we went to your panel and I bought a 3D printer that night for my son. And then I bought another 3D printer for myself because my son was always using that printer.
Oh.
And it's like, yes, I've done my job.
Good. Yeah, job done, Brian. Well done. That's great.
On that, that's actually an excellent question to segue to, Brian. What are some of the most, memorable moments with you and your droid? I kind of know probably Lee's, but I'd love to hear it again. But everybody else, that's what are some of the memorable moments you've had with your droid that stuck with you all these years?
So I have one that jumps immediately to mind, and I have to move my camera for a moment. So it's with this guy here. So I built K2SO. He was one of the earlier droids that I built, and he doesn't do much. He lights up, but he mostly just stands there. But he's really big, so he's intimidating. And I was doing a maker workshop at our booth at a convention. So I was demoing things, and I hear, "Oh, you decided to make the fake droid." And I look up, and it's Anthony Daniels. He came over to see what we were doing. And then he immediately starts engaging with us, just like everyone else there, asking questions about the droids and how things work and what that we do, and asking to see the insides of stuff. And then he goes over to the other astromechs and he starts, asking photos about them. And it was so great just having this connection where, the original droid, like the very first droid most of us think of, it's either R2 or C-3PO. And here's C-3PO, just like every other fan at the convention, excited about this after all, he has seen so many droids in his life. And the fact that he was still excited and still friendly and still engaged was so fun.
Well, you've got to watch Anthony Daniels, though, haven't you? Because I've got a dent on my droid here where he slapped it to tell it to be quiet so hard it's actually dented a small little dent in the dome. So he's a menace around droids.
Good Lord.
Yeah, Anthony on set, he does it to wind me up. He always puts his coffee on R2-D2's dome in between takes. He just does it on purpose. And he always looks at me as he does it. I'm like, I'm watching you, Anthony.
One of my more memorable ones tend to be online, but one I've had, I think it's mostly the messages that I've had and photographs that people have sent me privately. I had one which was a teacher at a school who, the little Tino, which is the small three-legged one that I designed, he brought that into school with the class, and then he also printed out some of the face plates of Tino that the kids could then colour in, so they could all create their own little masks of robots, and that was lovely. And to Brian's point, I mean, the amount of messages that I've had around the Zoom chats in, quite personal messages about how they've helped people through this period and all of that kind of stuff. It's been, and they're most of my memorable ones, which is really touching people and helping people. I think there's been some lovely kind of messages that I've had and photographs that I've had.
That's awesome. Yep. Please go on, David.
Sorry. For me, I have two that really stick out. One was, I think it was Celebration 2017 down in Florida, getting to have my astromech on stage, even if it's for like the last 5 seconds of a big, panel they had. It was a Droids of Star Wars. They had Anthony Daniels and they had Alan Tunick on there talking about droids and stuff, and then had a bunch of us builders bring our droids out. That was an amazing experience. But one other one that really sticks out for me is we did an event, was I think 2018, 2019, where we got to go to the Pentagon. A bunch of us from 501st and myself as a droid builder went there for a retirement party for one of their employees. And it was just amazing to see, this iconic building that you know is a center of government for us, at least here in the US, that I'm walking these halls and going to see inside of it. And I have some really good memories of just going in it, hanging out.
With your droid.
Exactly.
That's amazing.
I feel like the security check must have been fascinating.
Oh, it was. We all, the normal security checks, driving through the building, having to have, the car swept by the dogs and everything. And then once you get inside, it's amazing. Everybody, as we're walking the halls, stops and they're like, "Oh, let me take a picture. It's R2. It's R2. It's stormtroopers." Oh, everybody's just amazed at what it was experienced. I think we stopped business for the day for like at least 2 hours of everybody gawking at the 501st and the droids and stuff. So
that's so fascinating.
I'll share a couple of stories. First off, non-film related, and it's generalizing really, but when you build the droids and you get them to events and take them out to Comic Cons, that is special because you're interacting with the public, your droids are interacting with the public, and then you get them spot you if you're trying to do it stealth-like most of the time, but they're always looking for the controller. Then they seek you out and find you. Then they get chatting to you, and they're not interested in building, but they just want to talk to you, which is fine.
Yeah.
And they usually compliment you on your build and ask you all the usual questions. But it's still lovely to share all the stories when they come and see you. And you seem to forget about that when you don't go to events for so long. But once you go back to an event, this is why I do it. It's so cool to show what you've built to people and people to show their appreciation for what you've done. And then film related, I've got so many film stories, but I'll say hopefully a relatively new one. And that is getting other builders involved. We've got this system set up where I'm so grateful to Lucasfilm. They are happy to get good enough droids in on set to use them as background droids. And during each film, we submit all the photos, and it usually goes to the production team and the director, and they go through, and I never say who it belongs to or anything like that. They just pick their droid, the ones they like, they think it's going to be suitable for the scenes. And then I make the phone call to the builders and tell them that hopefully they're going to be involved in some shooting further down the line. And then the excitement through our department of knowing that someone outside the industry, as myself used to be, is going to come in with their droid. They didn't build it to be in a film. They built it for the same reason everybody else does, And it's going to now be in a Star Wars film or TV series or whatever we're shooting at the time. So the excitement of having someone come in on set and just drop in and have that experience of their droid, hopefully being seen as well. It can be very brief, as I'm sure Sam will share in a minute. But that is special. That's amazing that we can get other people involved, and fingers crossed, long may it continue. And I'm very grateful to Lucasfilm for allowing that opportunity and getting other people involved.
It's awesome.
It's quite easy to become desensitized by the fact that you see this thing in your house every day. And, when you take it out to a con and somebody that has never seen this before, and it just blows their mind. And you see that, you see this with children especially. They see it, they won't really understand how it is there in front of them or why it's somehow interacting with them. But you get those very special moments. And there's quite a few of them, to be fair. You get them time after time after time. And the parents are there and they're saying, is there somebody inside it? How is it controlled? And you get this kind of sense of, I forgot how good this was and how good and how humble these feelings actually are. And it's, once you've got to that stage where, when you're building these things and I walk past it and I'm like, I'm annoyed that it's not finished. I'm annoyed that it's not quite where it needed to be. This needs to happen. That needs to happen. I haven't got the parts for this yet. Then finally, when you get it to that part, the build process is an incredibly enjoyable thing. But then at the end of it, to then take this thing out and other people to get the same kind of enjoyment you get out of it as a kid or as an adult, is incredibly remarkable. But touching on the film stuff, I did some work with Lee, and again, it was one of the most amazing experiences that I've probably ever had. And, I was thinking about this as almost like a legacy thing. What have I done in my life? And the day, I think, Lee, and it's not really, the Millennium Falcon was there, and Lee said to me, R2-D2 is on the Falcon. And I went, okay. He goes, do you want to go on the Falcon and get him out? And I went, yes. And we went up the ramp. Okay. And it was amazing. I was so excited to get on the Falcon. It was brilliant. And we get up there, and inside I see R2-D2, and I look around, and there's scaffolding all inside. And I'm like, oh man, this isn't quite what I thought it was going to be. And Lee went, don't worry. And he took me into another part of the building, and then the set for the Falcon was there, and we got to walk around it, and he showed me all that kind of stuff. And I think, I've got a different vision now to how films are made, and how many takes things take to produce this kind of content. And it's an amazing experience to be involved with that. But now to be able to come out of that and then share that with other people and educate other people and influence other people, not just through Star Wars or films, but also 3D printing. It's, I get an enormous amount of value out of doing that and helping other people out. So that's my story.
That's awesome. All very inspiring. I want to, channel the conversation towards bringing our droid out to the public. And there's something that's always been an internal conflict in me, right? So when I've got my droid and it's out there, and as Lee was, y'all were describing, there's that moment where you're hiding and you're trying to be as sleuth as possible. And sometimes there's fun in hearing people go, ooh, it must be alive on its own. Or where is the person managing this thing? Maybe it's that guy, and you're clearly beside them and they don't know it's you. But there's a moment when they finally talk to you about it. And I'm always torn between two possible scenarios. There's moments where I try to maintain the magic when I see children look at it and say, yeah, it's alive. And I make that little lie that it's a living robot. And there's moments when I stop and open it up and make it a STEM moment and show them how it's set up inside. And I'm still 50-50 about which is the right approach. And I don't know how you guys do this when you're out there in the public. Do you lean to the magic or the science of showing what's in there?
I would say science myself. If people want to, we want to encourage people to do this themselves. We want to, share that involvement with them from a club point of view, I would say. But yeah, I think you're right with the 50-50 thing. It's great when there's a child there and they're taken in by the magic, but the parents know. Then the parents know someone's controlling that, and if they want to then engage with you and have that conversation, I think it's good to have that.
I think if you're out in public.
I always feel a bit uneasy taking R2-D2's head off in front of people, I must say. It just doesn't feel right. But what Oliver started to do, which is a stroke of genius, I think, is he takes a partly built droid along to events. So he's just got the frame that you can drive around with no head on. So people can peer inside and see how the electronics work. So that's a good idea. If you've got some part builds, we always encourage people to bring their work along as well. And we usually have a table to show works in progress, as we call it. So I think that's a good way of showing people. So yes, definitely important that people are shown, and science is very important. But I think I would favour a way of doing it personally.
Yeah, the two go hand in hand, don't they? Really, because I remember my first convention, which was very late because I spent most of my time, stuck in a shed designing and printing things. But I took Dio out to a convention, and Dio is so small and so accessible to small children. It was breathtaking for me. It was the first time not took Arthur out, any of the bigger ones out, just took Dio out, and there was little girls coming up, stroking him on the head and bending over and talking to him, and that was the real magic. But then to Lee's point, we were sat on the builder's table, and at the builder's table you've got part assembled ones, which is equally as magical. I think in people's minds they can deal with both. They can see the draw of the magic, and then actually how does that really work, and then they want a little peek behind the scenes. And it's these conventions are fantastic for showing both of those facets.
Yeah, we do similar with our conventions to our droid builder section is often kind of a Jawa sandcrawler kind of theme. where one of our members has a big pop-up background of a sand crawler, and we'll set that up, and we'll have tables with work in progress droids. And it's great for sharing. It's also great for embracing new builders.
Yeah.
Because someone comes onto like the New England Droid Builders Facebook group and says, "Oh, I'd love to come meet you. I don't have a droid yet." We're like, "Do you have a dome? Do you have a foot? Do you have a drive? Like, just bring whatever." Like, we had one guy once, he just brought like the interior shell of the torso, and that was it. It had no electronics, no skins, nothing. But people were fascinated with it. And even when I was first working on my BB-8, I remember bringing the 3D printed skeleton that had like one circle and one triangle screwed onto it. No head, no anything. But it was just enough to be recognizable as BB-8 that it sparked a lot of interesting conversations.
That's awesome.
I think the thing to remember is if that person that you're inspiring could be the next person that comes up with something so amazing for a STEM project. It's all about the Disney element is all about using your imagination and thinking bigger. And I do honestly believe that the stuff that we do at Comic-Cons and conventions and things like that, the science behind it really does relate to everybody.
The way I've handled it, the gag that I pull is I make R2 part of the gag, and before I open him up, I ask permission. I go, "Hey, R2, is it okay if we show your insides?" And he'll do that. And I go to the kid, "I think that means yes." And the kid's like, "No!" And then I open him up.
Yeah, like sometimes I'll play the part of the droid technician, because most people kind of get an auto mechanic sort of thing. And I'm like, "Oh, I'm their tech. I'm here to just help them and fix them when they break down."
That's
yeah,
awesome.
One of the things I wanted to do, I started to design was as an not autonomous, but a set of wheels that just goes underneath the dome. So you can take the dome off, and then the dome can shoot off and spin round and roll around afterwards, which I think is quite magical as well. So, but put a little speaker in there. So if you are showing it in part builds, the dome can wander off and create a bit more magic.
Oh, that'd be really fun. Like my domes don't connect to my bodies at all. The electronics are freestanding, self-powered, everything. So my dome could totally run away and keep on doing its thing.
Crazy. Do you guys have any questions for each other? I feel like I've been dominating the questioning. I'd love for us to, of course, make this a panel. Yep.
Yeah, Lee, can we see some of the stuff you're not allowed to show us?
I mean, no one's watching, right? This is a private channel, Lee, just so you know.
Exactly.
Very good.
Exactly.
Hey, I'd love to, Sam, but it's all at work at the moment. I haven't smuggled any home yet.
Okay.
So what does everybody have for a wish list project? Like what's a thing that you would love to build that you haven't yet?
Well, Baddeley and I are working on something at the moment, which hopefully will be out. We're going to be doing some filming some content and stuff for that, which is for a 3D printing thing that I'm involved with. So that's going to be an exciting thing. But the building big things, is understandably a bit of a problem, especially if you're addicted to this kind of stuff. But I felt like I didn't have another droid in me, yet I know that there is another body and another set of legs and another dome in this room that can easily be made into something quite quickly. So the smaller things are sort of certainly more appealing. I'd love to do a BB-8, but certainly in the UK the parts, the Carrie Christie stuff isn't that accessible to the UK like it is in the US, unfortunately. So time will tell.
Yeah, my project at the moment is the Sandcrawler. I think it's not a loved vehicle. You don't see that many of them being made. So I'm just in the midst of creating this kind of beast, which is
My God.
Good Lord.
How wide is that?
Sorry?
How wide is that?
How wide is it? It's
oh my God, it's massive.
It is massive, yeah. It's wide. But it will what I want to do is roll some smaller ones out of it. But I just love the iconic shape and design of that, and I've always wanted one. And if you're going to get one, you might as well build it big. I think is a common theme in what we do.
Oh.
My dream build is a Johnny 5. I'd love to build a Johnny 5. But I don't know. I don't want to really get involved in that, to be honest with you. I think I'll stick to the Star Wars route, really, the Star Wars theme. And I'm currently building yet another astromech. So I'm timing myself as well. I'm trying to build it in quite a quick time, just to see how quick I really can build an astromech. It's going to be all aluminium. So and I've got all the parts now, I think. So yeah, just frantically building that and timing it. So that's my current project anyway, my main project.
Yeah.
Amazing.
For myself, as I say this, I'm sure somebody's already doing this or has done it, but I would love a quarter scale Imperial probe droid that's got a real drone inside that I can fly around. I'd love that to be a thing. And if it already is, please point me to where I can find the files. Michael, have you started working on this? I mean, that would be so fun to bring a probe droid to the conventions just flying around.
No, there's an amazing set of files that Dave Moog just released on Droid Division. They're 1-to-1 scale. They are amazing, absolutely amazing. If you have a look on, I think Michael Masters has made is the one who's furthest forward on that, and it's a beast. And I'm guessing it would scale beautifully down to about a quarter scale.
I've got the files for that. Dave sent me the files for it, and I went, no, I haven't got it in me, dude. That is insane. It's mental. Honestly, this thing is
9 foot, isn't it? 9 foot.
Okay, because he's got the space for it. This is the space I've got. So something has to give.
Yeah.
Prior to Michael's build, that would have been my dream build, but after seeing his, I know better. I would have to get rid of like my dining room table or my living room furniture or something to store it.
Yeah, our Garrison built one, but not 3D printed. Like Gregory Smith built one as well. But yeah, it's gigantic. Like I really just want a smaller one. Even if we could figure out how to make it in foam so it can be lighter to float, that would be it for me.
Yeah, it'd be cool actually.
That's one for you, Michael. Well done. We'll see that next week then.
Yeah, in foam would work. Then that's the other thing with the materials, the lightweight PLA, which is kind of brilliant stuff. When you print it, it foams out, so it's about a third of the weight. And I used it for the DO head, but you could potentially 3D print the probe droid in that, and you would not need that much lift, I think, to be honest.
Another thing on 3D printing, the polymers that are coming out right now, and certainly some of the stuff that I've been sent recently is literally indestructible. Certainly when you're working with gearing and things like that, and the stuff I'm doing with Michael at the moment on this new robot that we're building, a lot of that's been produced in ASA and various, carbon infused filaments, and you can jump on it, you can chuck it around, you can hit it with a hammer, and it doesn't break. So it's incredibly durable.
That's awesome. David, any dream projects?
I have two. I still would like to do that Imperial probe droid. Again, I don't have the space for it. I'm taking over my dining room is my 3D printing room right now, but I still would like to print a BB-8 as well at some point, have a fully functional.
I'll tell you what I have got. I've got a full-scale STL of Lee Towersey holding a remote control. It just popped into my head seeing him sat there. I was thinking, you know what? What about a full-size Lee Towersey?
Nobody needs that in their life, Sam. Nobody needs that. God knows why I gave you that file.
We were talking about this in the other panel. Like, I was hoping there was going to be a Lee Towersey action figure in that he's been in costume in some of the films, right? So, but apparently not.
Well, there's been a pop vinyl. We did a run of pop vinyls with Lee Towersey on them, and that went down really well. Well, actually, they ran out of those quite quickly, but no full-size model as of yet.
Well, if you send me the scans, we can make it into an action figure.
You know what? I did make a promise to Lee that I would not share the files, and I have been true to my word and not shared the files with anybody.
Lefty agrees.
So, gentlemen, we're coming up on our last 5 minutes. So, on that, I want to use this time to quickly first say again, please donate if you enjoy this conversation at all. Everyone out there, again, none of these people are being paid. None of the people behind the scenes are getting paid. They've done some amazing work. Some of us have not slept at all. And so if that matters to you at all, please donate and help us raise money for FIRST. On that, I want to end on you guys all just sharing future projects and see what you guys are all working on before we say goodbye.
All right, I'll go.
Silent.
So I am very excited about the world reopening and conventions coming back. So I've shifted into costuming again for a little bit. I'm currently working on Paz Vizsla from season 1 of The Mandalorian, which is actually my first 3D printed armor costume that I'm attempting to do. And it's a very fun and interesting project. The designer spent a lot of effort on that guy for the 4 frames of film he was actually in. So many, many, many pieces.
That's awesome.
Yeah, mine's are the little racers. I'm really enjoying those at the moment. You can probably see one just back there, which is a pit droid sat on top of the speeder bike. But what the project that I've got in the back of mind I haven't started yet is actually doing some silicon skinned ones, which with animatronics inside, effectively, but then creating 3D printed molds so that you can mold the silicon then with the fairly cheap and simple animatronics that sit inside that. And again, it's just that extension of skills, because we've done printing, we've done weathering, we've done painting. I think then stretching that out to silicon would be really cool as well. So the little racers have got a lot of legway, I think, in creativity, which is a bit that I really enjoy.
So you'll be creating a remote controlled Grogu and hover cart.
That could be it. That kind of thing, yeah.
That's exciting.
I've already mentioned the projects I'm on. Obviously, I'm building an astromech at the moment. So I don't think there's one in the UK. I'm replicating an existing astromech that's out there in the Star Wars universe. So I look forward to sharing that soon when it's finished. But also, we are preparing for a live event on July the 4th. You Americans may be a bit busy doing other things on July the 4th, I understand. But Michael's involved, Sam's involved, and we're getting some events set up where the builders can get together. So it's not a Comic-Con as such. We have this MOT system, which tests people's droids and makes sure they're sort of event-worthy, if you like, and they're safe. So we're planning to get together a couple of venues here in the UK. And I think we're going to try and stream it live, aren't we, Sam? And do various other things.
There's been some talk about that. So
Yeah,
we're going to try and do a similar kind of format to what we've got here, and maybe just do some interviewing of the droid builders as we're going around and things like that. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah. So, and if anybody is looking to build, there's all the Facebook groups, like I mentioned, and please look us up. And, we're all accessible. We can all be messaged. I don't hide myself behind Facebook or anything. People are welcome to message me and ask me any questions. As I'm sure Sam and Michael are the same. I know Michael's very active, and Sam, of course,
I've had a few messages already, and I will get back to those guys. Thank you for your messages.
Yeah, I've got 2 people to help after this Zoom chat, actually. So I promise people I'll call them back this evening. So I will do that.
For me, it's aside from the L3 and the K2, I plan to start dabbling a little bit into animatronics, making start small, like the eyes of K2 moving, and hopefully build up to taking my 3PO and making that actually a bit animatronic, so I can have the 2 of them between him and R2 talk to each other and literally interact at a convention. That's kind of like my dream goal right now.
That's exciting.
Awesome.
Sam?
Yeah, the last thing I guess is obviously working on this thing with Michael Baddeley at the moment, and which hopefully will be in the next couple of weeks. You might sort of start seeing that. I'm also doing a hell of a lot with 3D printing and trying to find the perfect 3D printer to make this stuff on. And in fact, I'm doing more with 3D printers than actually building at the moment, which is kind of role reversal there, but that's kind of how it is. I'm working on a Ratrig V-Core 3, which is a Core XY printer, 500/500 and a 400/400, which is just over at the back here, which you can see the domes underneath. And this should be a relatively quick process for 3D printing with any luck. So I know there's a lot of people in the community that have just bought these. So I hope that I'm correct with my calculations on perhaps promoting this. But as I say, it's all good stuff. And again, I hope to see more droids out there very, very soon.
Brian, close us off.
I don't know. I think I'm out of words.
Cool. Well, on that, thank you, everyone. This has been amazing. I'm a big fan of everyone's work. And again, standing on the shoulders of giants, thank you so much for enlightening me and allowing me to be a vessel for the audience to learn a lot about droid building with you all. So thank you for your time, and hope to catch you all on the forums and the groups. And again, Everyone out there, please donate to First. Thank you.
Keep building, everybody.
Bye
Good
for
to see you
now.
all.
Bye.
Bye.
See you soon in person.